Hello, this is Vlad and a new story from my channel, Amazing Stories. Irina reluctantly moved to Moscow, tempted by the salary of a paramedic, which was much higher in the big city. But she didn't take into account that renting even a tiny room was insanely expensive. Travel to and from work cost a fortune. And the patients who called the ambulance were often more difficult and capricious. Of course, there were good, grateful people, but many treated them like servants. So what if he called them for nothing? He'd been drinking for 20 years. So what? No one even bothered to apologize. Or someone's crazy grandmother called the ambulance, thinking her husband had died. The relatives just laughed, saying, well, she needs to have some fun. Irina knew perfectly well that false alarms and calls for trivial reasons were inevitable. But it was precisely in the big city that people seemed less grateful and responsible. Or maybe she was just stressing herself out because she didn't want to leave her small village, where everything was simple and straightforward. Sasha, have you done your homework? She asked her son, returning from a call. It's easy. Even if you don't think about it, you can do it in a couple of hours, the 10-year-old smiled. He looked like Ira, just as fair-haired, gray-eyed, easygoing, and smart. A real gem. Sasha was the only good thing left after a long and incredibly difficult marriage with his father. Sometimes Ira thought it would have been better to serve those 10 years in a maximum security prison than to try to adjust to her ex-husband. But then her beloved son, who made life meaningful and a ray of light in the ever-deepening twilight, wouldn't have appeared. It all started well with Igor. It was hard to imagine a more polite and caring young man. For Ira, who had been given a tiny apartment in a village after leaving an orphanage, a marriage proposal after just 3 months of the most gallant courtship seemed like a rare opportunity. She met her lover's mother. This pleasant, intelligent woman made a good impression on her. Olga Petrovna said, "All that matters is that my son chooses a decent bride, and the rest is theirs." The future mother-in-law had no plans to interfere in their lives and even promised to leave them the family apartment. She herself would go live with her sister in the south. She had been inviting her for a long time. Ira was amazed. What a stroke of luck this had befallen her. Tall, handsome, dark-haired, with broad shoulders, a knack for fixing everything himself, and attentive. Sure, he was married, 10 years older than her, but he also earned a lot. He worked shifts, wasn't lazy, and wasn't afraid of work. Ira was in love and felt like Cinderella, who somehow snagged her prince. Olga Petrovna kept her promise. What she didn't know was that her son had only stopped drinking for a very short time, and everyone in the family knew a relapse was inevitable. So Olga Petrovna essentially ran away from her own son, who had tormented her, taking advantage of the fact that he had found some old woman who would probably waste her time and energy on this man. Am I even a bad person, telling myself such things in advance? That's what Olga Petrovna told her, and she only came to see her grandson once. Maybe you'll take us in? I tried to leave your son, but he kept stalking me. And there's nowhere to go with a newborn, Ira begged her. I hope she'll help her, as one woman would help another. But no such luck. Olga Petrovna merely raised an eyebrow. Listen, I'm living with my sister, in a beautiful townhouse by the sea, with everything provided for. Do you think Igor won't come after you if you live with me? He'll just kick us all out, and that won't make things any easier for anyone. You know what? I've had my share of suffering. Now it's your turn. That's a woman's lot. Well, at least take Sasha for a while. I'll sell the apartment and find a job. Ira, there was no one else to ask for help. Oh no, my dear, I didn't advertise my son to you, I chose him myself. So don't make me feel so guilty. Deal with your own problems. You're a grown-up girl now, Olga Petrovna said. Ira did deal with it. She walked like she was on a tightrope. You'd fall a little to the right or left. She managed to keep Igor from raising a hand to her or the child, like he had with his previous wife. He just screamed that no one needed him, and everyone had betrayed him. He also created an unbearably oppressive atmosphere in the house by stealing valuable money. He was insanely jealous, would rush to her work with his eyes wide open and grab the shirts of all the men she worked with. I know my wife is definitely having an affair with one of you. That's why she's lost interest in me. I'll shake her soul out of her when I find out. These regular rows led to her boss recommending she find another job. No one wanted to deal with a madman who could show up at any moment and start a fight out of nowhere. Ira would have run away even sooner. Sashka went to school at the time and started asking questions. He didn't love his father and told his mother he didn't want to live with him. Son, you understand, I'm trying to sell the apartment secretly, but no one wants to move to our village. I haven't been able to do anything for several years. Just don't tell your dad. Ira really did try to sell the apartment to her former teacher at the orphanage. Larissa Ivanovna had to move somewhere anyway, and she wanted a change of scenery after her husband's death. But when she learned that Igor might drop by after the purchase, she got scared and kept putting it off. Ira might not have mentioned the potential for such problems, but she was still being honest. She didn't want to sell a pig in a poke. And so the sale dragged on for several years. Then the teacher said, "Listen, a friend of mine has a son, Oleg, a nice guy, but life turned out so badly that he had to serve time. He's not afraid of guys like your Igor, he'll buy your apartment. Quote, but he doesn't have much money." And the teacher said Oleg was only willing to pay half the price for the apartment. Oh well, what can I do? If I sell it on a classified ad, my husband will find out. And who knows how it will end. The deal was finalized while Igor was away working a shift. And when he returned, all he saw was an empty apartment and a notice that his wife had filed for divorce and changed her phone number. Ira even added a note. And keep in mind, no one at my work knows where I went. I didn't tell the neighbors either. And the person who bought my place doesn't know either. Don't bother anyone. It was unbearable for me to live with you. I was simply afraid to leave, and there was no betrayal. You simply turned into a monster, and I fell out of love with you. I'm not leaving for someone else, I'm running away from you. That's how her new life began a few years ago. With the little money she got from selling her house, she couldn't even buy a room in the big city. She didn't spend the money, hoping to gradually save up and then buy something. Perhaps she could move to another small town and live there. But what kind of saving up? Life was eating up her entire salary. The real challenge was to at least avoid spending her savings. Sasha constantly had to buy something at school. Her son was growing up huge, but he didn't demand anything, even though Ira tried to make sure he had as much as others. At first, she dreamed of taking on a part-time job and becoming a private nurse. This would allow her to earn more without the Herculean effort. But the head doctor immediately told her, "Don't even think about it. We don't need fellchers." Quote, "Those who can't just come and fill in immediately if needed. You'll be fired in an instant. But I have a child, I'm all alone." Ira was already scolding herself for her stupidity. She'd found someone to turn to for advice. It was foolish to hope that Ivan Andreevich would recommend some patient to her. Listen, we all have our own problems. We all work our last ounces of energy, not because life is good. So, know this. You'll be fired if you even think about taking on part-time jobs. I need responsible employees, and I don't hide it. In case someone's head rolls? Huh? A bald, short man with anxiously darting brown eyes shook his finger at her. That was the end of the conversation. It turned out that the chief had listened to all her problems only to draw a conclusion. Irina could be asked to come to a call at any time. She couldn't refuse due to her difficult situation. And that's exactly what happened. She was looking for support and sympathy, but instead, she made her life even worse. So on this day, when she was planning to spend the evening with her son and even go for a walk in the park together, the phone rang. "Ira, we need to go to a call at the airport urgently. Ivan couldn't come out. Well, you know, he always has excuses. He's the chief's son, and you live nearby. We'll pick you up in about 30 minutes, the duty officer called. He explained that some man had become ill. There was nowhere else to go. Why me? Why do I have to constantly replace everyone else?" Quote, Irina asked bitterly, even though she knew the answer to her own question. Like a fool, she trusted the head doctor and spilled everything about herself. Now they're exploiting her weak points. "Ira, listen, I understand everything, but it's not me who decides," the duty officer sighed. Dima was a good man, the father of a large family. Sometimes he took them and Sasha to amusement parks for free, since his wife worked there, and even treated them to free ice cream and burgers. In short, arguing with him was somehow inhumane. He already did so much for them. "Sasha, I'm sorry, but I have to go to work urgently." Ira looked sadly at her son's upset face. He tried everything to make her life easier, so he immediately forced a smile. "Mom, don't worry. I'm doing well after we left Dad. I'll play on the computer with the kids." Quote, "He promised them a long time ago," Sasha said. Ira stroked her golden son's head and thought that she, well, didn't deserve such a child. After all, it was still unclear who supported whom more in their family. And she regretted that Sasha was forced to grow up so early. She constantly thought about how she should have done something differently and scolded herself for being so stupid in her youth. What's wrong with him? What? Next to the man in the expensive suit was a smartly dressed brunette with noticeable curves. She kept chattering about how the ambulance took too long to arrive and now they should sue. Ira sighed. The patient's blood pressure was significantly low. His breathing was ragged. His condition looked serious. "Then come to the court, will you have time? In the meantime, tell me what happened before your husband lost consciousness." Quote, Irina asked. She noticed a wedding ring on the woman's finger. "Actually, he's not my husband. We were just together at work." She blushed deeply. "Listen, I don't care what kind of relationship you have. I need to save someone," Irina said impatiently. "And you're sticking your nose in here? You know, I didn't cheat on my husband, and you won't be able to make money off me. Every beggar is just trying to make a buck off famous, rich, respectable people." The woman stubbornly refused to tell what happened to the man lying unconscious. She spewed curses, cursed the whole world, and said that her husband would sue and punish everyone. The woman was not going to tolerate the humiliation of some doctors who dared to make dirty hints and practically blackmail her. "Listen, stop it already, just tell me what happened." Irina raised her voice. It didn't help. The woman completely fell into a stupor, widened her eyes at her and remained silent. "And check your hand." He was having a convulsion before he fell. He was trying to reach for something, but she was trying to snatch it away. It was the woman in the pink suit. She seemed angry. Suddenly, Ira heard a thin voice behind her. Dama blinked and, throwing a business card on expensive paper at them, ran off on her heels in an unknown direction, screaming about a conspiracy. Ira paid no attention. She looked at the little girl in the shabby coat and felt a chill herself when she saw the child's face, neck, and hands flushed from the cold. The clothes were clearly too light for winter. The coat was, well, demi-season at most, and it had clearly been altered several times. The lining was a different fabric, the collar had been replaced. The little girl blew on his frozen, mittenless hands and repeated, "Yes, yes, he wanted to do something. Look, he's holding this kind man in his hands. He wanted to feed me, but that pink woman started screaming, and then she started shaking him." Irina opened the patient's hand and saw a syringe with medicine. The girl brought the bottle, which rolled under the chair. "So, he's diabetic." Ira quickly injected the medicine. She knew that if she waited any longer, a coma could set in. Quote, "Will he live?" Quote. The little girl asked. Quote, "Well, yes, look, he's better already. Listen, you saved his life. What's your name? And for some reason you're alone?" Irina asked. "Yes, it's a long story. My name is Lyuda. I ran away from an orphanage. My mother, she works in Terds. That's what my grandmother said, but I don't know for sure. So I thought I'd recognize her if I saw her, or she'd recognize me," said the fair-haired little girl with piercing blue eyes. "You know what? Come with us. I have a thermos. Lunch. I was in an orphanage once too, and I always wanted to escape too. Anyway, I hope you'll believe me. We'll sort this out and find your mother." Irina simply couldn't leave this little street child here alone. "Not unless you return me to the orphanage. You won't lie?" Quote, asked Lyuda. "I promise. I'll try to help you, but you definitely can't stay here. That evil woman in pink clearly has it in for you," Irina said, finally convincing the girl to go with her. "Yes, she's just like a witch dressed in pink so everyone would think she was kind," the little girl agreed and followed Ira, smiling at something. "Oh, so it's you, the woman for whom I got punched in the face?" These were the first words the patient spoke when he came to in the ambulance. "They're probably still delirious," Irina said to her colleague. She'd never seen this tall, sleek blonde man. She didn't even know anyone of his status. They'd only driven 20 minutes, and the patient's phone had already been called many times. The team knew he was a respected businessman, Oleg Ivanovich Korasov, and also a philanthropist, and he should be treated with the utmost respect. "Listen, I actually understand everything perfectly. I'm Oleg, have you forgotten me?" "Oh, right, we've only seen each other twice, and you also warned me that you were selling the apartment secretly from your ex," the man said. Then he caught himself and glanced sideways at the other paramedic. "Oh, sorry, I said something unnecessary. Oh, never mind, we're in the ambulance, brothers and sisters. Everyone knows my story." Quote. And Ira recognized the man to whom she had once sold the apartment for half the price, and she couldn't figure out why the businessman needed it, to put it mildly, modest housing. "And why do you think I haggled back then? You know, I was robbed by my own brother. Those were tough times. Your place saved me. True, I had to fight with your Igor a couple of times. For some reason, he was sure that you had gone to me, or I to you, and even claimed that you had a son from me. And do you know why? Not only because I lived in this apartment. I didn't take down your photos. I thought they were decorating the place. The only beautiful thing there was. And now it turns out you saved me. So it turns out, asked the man and smiled. Well, actually, Lyuda saved you. Irina smiled and pointed to the girl, telling what happened at the airport. Wow. Now it turns out I have to marry you, and Lyuda adopt you like an honest person, Oleg laughed. Yes, that would be great, answered the girl and sighed. Ira, unable to contain herself, laughed. That's how absurdly she was proposed to. And it wasn't even she who accepted, but the poor little street child. Irina didn't say anything. It wouldn't be right to take away the little girl's hope for a miracle. She had grown up and knew that businessmen come to their senses and then forget their good intentions. But people could still dream. How could you quit? Have you forgotten about our conversation? The indignation of the head doctor knew no bounds. Ira still disobeyed him, deciding to become a nurse for this very rich man. Keep in mind, such people are very capricious. He'll throw you out, and you'll come crawling back, and I won't take you back. Ivan Andreevich, listen, I'm marrying him. Don't you know? Ira was just joking. She didn't tell the boss that Oleg, in gratitude, bought her a nice 2-room apartment. And that she was planning to adopt Lyuda. No mother. The little girl didn't have a flight attendant. Her drunken grandmother had told her these nonsense while she was still alive. In fact, the girl's mother had long since died from beatings from the people's father, who, in turn, had disappeared in prison. But Iris didn't tell that story, instead concocting a legend about her mother having crashed a plane, having first given up her parachute to an unfortunate family with children. Ira had finally realized that telling the truth wasn't always necessary. And now she was enjoying Ivan Andreevich's face, flushed with rage. You're even stupider than I thought. All the media is already writing about this Oleg having an affair with the wife of a very high-ranking official, some Tatiana. He's just using you to cover his tracks, the chief doctor yelled. That's not true, a confident baritone sounded behind him. The chief doctor turned and saw the businessman. I sincerely love Ira and have for a long time. I even fought with her ex-husband for her. Well, and Tatiana and I only have a business relationship, and a negative one at that. Oleg told Irina that the lady in pink had deliberately slipped him a medicine that triggered the attack. She wanted to help her husband get his money back. She pretended to come to apologize for her husband, but in reality, she almost killed him. Go to hell. The head doctor waved his hand and walked down the hallway, but he couldn't help but glance out the window at Kira being driven off to a new life in a luxury car, with a sleek businessman at the wheel. People really know how to get by. And she was playing the fool, the head doctor sighed, thinking that life was unfair. After all, it would be hard for Irina to find a replacement. Meanwhile, in that same expensive car, another conversation was taking place. Sorry, I just blurted out the marriage thing to annoy him, Ira said. I see. Well, it would probably be right to get to know each other. Quote, I suggest we go on a date. The first one is just the two of us, and the second is with my future children. What do you think? Oleg asked, smiling. He felt like he'd known Ira his whole life, but he didn't want to scare her off. She'd already accepted the apartment with great suspicion. Everything indicated she wouldn't provide any services, especially if they were illegal. A silly mood suddenly took hold of Ira. Quote, "Well, I don't even know. A date is serious, after all, but it still happened, albeit later." Irina still didn't want to accept that a rich man could have serious intentions. Everything was waiting for scary skeletons in the closet, so they didn't marry a year later, as Oleg had planned, but only 2. And even then, Ira only agreed because they were expecting a 3rd child. Otherwise, she would have been dragging it out and hesitating even longer. What scared this strange yet alluring woman most was that she fell in love with Oleg almost at first sight. But her fears vanished. Everything was just as she'd dreamed. And her prince didn't turn into a monster. If you like the story, I hope you'll support me with a thumbs up. All the best, M.